कदम मिलाकर चलना होगा। बाधाएं आती हैं, आए, गिरे पड़ने की घोर घटाएं, पांवों के नीचे अंगारे, सर पर बरसे यदि ज्वालाएं, निज हाथों से हंसते हंसते आग लगाकर चलना होगा, कदम मिलाकर चलना।
Bharat Ratna Atal Bihari Vajpayee is a name in Indian politics which surely doesn't need much of an introduction. A ray of hope and inspiration, a phenomenal leader, a wonderful ruler of hearts, a super efficient statesman, a great visionary, a pioneer with great forethought, a much loved Prime Minister, and much more. Vajpayee ji shall forever be remembered and regarded for the way he had influenced Indian politics. Vajpayee ji had enjoyed fame and attention, be it for his brilliant political strategies or governance policies, be it for his trademark oratory, or be it for his magnificent poetic talent or his inspiring exhortation to us citizens to have to walk together, that is, kadam mila ke chalna.
हास्य रुदन में तूफानों में, ये शब्दावली पर ध्यान दीजिए, हास्य रुदन में तूफानों में, अमर असंख्यक बलिदानों में, उद्यानों में, वीरानों में, अपमानों में, सम्मानों में, उन्नत मस्तक उभरा सीना, पीड़ाओं में पलना होगा, कदम मिलाकर चलना होगा.
On the 16th of May 1996, Atal Bihari Vajpayee became the Prime Minister for the first time. He addressed the nation on that historic occasion.
Sisters and brothers, I am grateful to you for giving me this opportunity to address the nation as Prime Minister. 11 successive general elections and scores of them to state assemblies have clearly demonstrated that we are a mature democracy and enlightened nation. It is necessary that we do not allow irrelevant issues to cloud our national vision and to shroud the real issues. What are they? Before the electorate was the question of development, of elimination of corruption, transparency, and accountability in all spheres of government. In short, good governance.
The journey of Atal Bihari Vajpayee from Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh, to be sworn in as a Prime Minister, though briefly, might have taken 72 years. After his school and undergraduate education in Gwalior, Vajpayee did his Masters in Political Science from DAV College in Kanpur. He participated in the freedom struggle and later entered the rough and tumble of national politics as a member of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. (1951) saw Atal Bihari Vajpayee as a founding member of the Bharatiya Janasangh. He was elected to the second Lok Sabha in 1957 from Balrampur in Uttar Pradesh. His oratorial skills impressed one and all in Parliament. H.K. Dua, veteran journalist.
Even Nehru appreciated his speeches in Parliament and told Vajpayee one day, "Young man, you can be one day the Prime Minister of the country." Appreciated him that much. But that was a liberal thought on Nehru's part, as well as the kind of the speeches he was giving. There's no bitterness. He could be angry when he wants to be, but there's no bitterness in the debate. He could express anger, he could express joy, wisdom, I will say. With a charming personality, sense of humor as comes to only people who are very democratic.
Ram Sharan Joshi, veteran journalist.
If you remember, when he made his maiden speech on foreign affairs, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who praised him and he told him you would go long way.
There is something unique about the long-standing fraternal relation between Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Lal Krishna Advani. Together, they built a political party, say, from the scratch to power. Any aspect of Vajpayee as a politician is incomplete without the towering presence of Advani ji.
My acceptance that he is my leader, he is senior to me in every respect, and his trust in me, these two things put together, they did it. I must say that credit goes to him mainly. If there are leaders like Atalji who can communicate with masses, huge masses, in a straightforward manner and explain to them complex political issues with wit and humor. And furthermore, his command over Hindi language, that amazed me. He is a person who accommodates people, who understands what the other wants. Both of us are clear that there can be no compromise with national interest. That's the core of our commitment. Combined with that is Atalji's generous nature, which trusts people and tries to cooperate and coordinate with as many as possible. And when he came to know me from close, he arrived at a stage when even as Prime Minister, if anyone came to him with a problem relating to government or a problem relating to the party, his first question would be, have you met Advani and discussed it with him? And if he said yes, he would say that I'll discuss it with him and decide. And if he said no, he said beat him. He invariably consulted me and did what he did. And it gave me great strength and respect in the people also.
Shri Shakti Sinha, Director of the Nehru Memorial Museum and Library, was Private Secretary to Atal Bihari Vajpayee.
His regards for Parliament, the niceties of Parliament, parliamentary traditions is extremely, extremely high. And of course, he is a politician in the sense that involved with the party from the beginning, seen the growth of the party, seen it grow, come down. He took it very, very seriously. So he's a very diligent parliamentarian. He would ask for old parliamentary debates, ask for the latest position papers, read some of it himself. Some people like me would read and explain it. Then he would start taking notes, writing it out in hand, making different drafts. He never spoke with a piece of paper other than formal speeches.
By 1968, Atal Bihari Vajpayee had become the president of the Janasangh. The infamous 2-year national emergency declared in 1975 found him in prison, and once it was lifted, his party, the Janasangh, became a part of the newly formed Janata Party under the guidance of Loknayak Jayaprakash Narayan. The new party came to power with Morarji Desai as the Prime Minister. Vajpayee was appointed as the Minister for External Affairs in the new government. M.J. Akbar, Minister of State for External Affairs and veteran journalist, looks back.
Remember that he made his first great impression upon Indian politics as foreign minister during the Janta phase of 1977-1980. But that was a great phase when he actually, under Morarji Desai as Prime Minister, held command of the Foreign Office and gave Indian foreign policy a very strong direction, but a direction that had a tremendous balance.
Dr. Christopher Raj, former chair of the American Studies Center at Jawaharlal Nehru University, says that Vajpayee gave a new direction to India's foreign policy.
While he built a good relation with Pakistan, I think he wanted to remove any kind of, uncertainty in Pakistan, because I think by the year 98 May, he has already made up his mind to end the nuclear option and go in for nuclear test, which end up with 5 nuclear underground tests for India. This is a major development for India.
In a little over 2 years, the Janata experiment had failed and the Janata Party disintegrated. The Janasangh component of the party, led by L.K. Advani and Atal Bihari Vajpayee, founded the Bharatiya Janata Party in 1980. The BJP grew from 2 seats in the Lok Sabha in 1984 to 84 seats in 1989 and 120 in 1991. Shakti Sinha, secretary to Vajpayee, remembers.
I had known Mr. Vajpayee for a number of years. And when he became Prime Minister in May 1996, so that government was lasted for a very short while. So when the government was being formed, I was present at his house. So he told me that you can join me, but please remember, and this is where the greatness of the man comes out. He says, please remember that this government is not going to last. This government will fall because we don't have the numbers. Unlikely to get the numbers. And therefore, if you are associated with me, it may harm your career at a later stage. So even in the process while government was being formed and they were running around for numbers, he had the time to think that this civil servant, through association by me, can tomorrow be affected adversely. So I think that really shows the man's larger vision. The fact his concern for everybody was so strong.
His second term as Prime Minister of the National Democratic Alliance NDA government in 1998 witnessed momentous developments. Dr. Christopher Raj.
He had a very powerful and a very good foreign minister in person of Jaswant Singh, and Talbot and Jaswant Singh's dialogue really helped to put things in order so that their India-America relationship improved, and Clinton visited India in March 2000, which further strengthened. Vajpayee was able to welcome, and he also went the next year to United States under a totally different setup. See, terrorism had also affected America. We had common cause with the United States and on fighting a war on terror. Having achieved nuclear capability, the Bush administration wanted to abrogate the treaty, anti-ballistic treaty with Russia, and wanted to go set up new missile systems. And at that point of time, America did want Indian support, and India gave the first major support in the month of May 2001, before the 9/11 episode, that it accepted the American nuclearization program in 2001, and subsequently 9/11 came. After 9/11, I can clearly tell you, the Indo-US relations set the tone of India's growth as a big power. Improvements took place on another field during Vajpayee's regime, was the improving of the missile technology, missile relationship. Now, the major problem was India attaining to put space programs, and they needed cryogenic rockets. This was only Soviet Union was giving. And there was a lot of, American opposition pressure on Soviet Union by different ways of sanction, so that we don't get the cryogenic rocket from Soviet Union. But after this, there was a breakthrough. So we have, during, Vajpayee's statesmanship, US-India relations improved.
The Kargil War was won by Vajpayee in May-July 1999.
In Kargil War, whatever it was a defeat and reverse for Pakistan. Militarily, he succeeded against Pakistan once again after 1971, and the area had to be vacated, and the neighborhood saw that India means business. No kind of aggression, no kind of this playing this region would be acceptable to person like Vajpayee when chips are down. Thirdly, I think the nation, the only superpower then existed, also recognized and interacted, and the pace by which Jaswant Singh and Talbot created this, what we say, groundwork is tremendous, which, with the permission of our Vajpayee, this succeeded. So when, it is very significant to know when nation's leadership interacts with the United States leadership, their profile increase.
In the 1999 general elections, the NDA won a majority, and Atal Bihari Vajpayee took over as Prime Minister on the 13th of October. Professor Arun Kumar, noted economist and academician, talks about the deft handling by Prime Minister Vajpayee of a tough economic situation.
Vajpayee came to power at a very difficult time. The economy had already started a downward journey, after the initial reforms and the sudden spurt in the growth that took place. Then after 97, the economy was not growing so well. And then we had the bomb. And because of that, there were sanctions. And that affected the economy further. Then the second thing was that there were pressures from the WTO. That agriculture should be opened up, and the Seattle round was there, and after that 1400 commodities were liberalized, and there was a lot of pressure that agriculture is not doing so well, and that especially oil seeds and others, there was a lot of pressure. So that was a very difficult time for the economy that Mr. Vajpayee presided over, and what his contribution was to see how to manage the various contradictions, because there was also political turmoil on the Iraq issue because the Americans were trying to pressurize us to send our troops to Iraq, and the parliament, did not accept that. So there were a lot of external pressures, there were a lot of internal pressures. There was also the 9/11 event, because of which there was sudden, thing on terrorism all over the globe, and the American pressure was there. So Mr. Vajpayee was presiding over a very difficult time of India. So his being a clever politician meant that he could manage to steer the BJP during the 5 years of his rule. He managed in such a way that by the time the government was leaving, the elections were there, the rate of growth had increased to 8.4%, which by up to that point of time was a very good record, because before that it was growing at only about 4% or thereabouts. So his economic management and the people he chose, and he left the matter to them and to other experts. And it is this combination, that is what a prime minister is to do. A prime minister is to choose the people who can steer an economy and the country out of a difficult period of time. So in that sense, out of the many prime ministers that we've had in the recent times, he proved to be a very astute prime minister and an astute politician who could steer the country through a very difficult period.
Atal Bihari Vajpayee is the only politician who was elected to the Lok Sabha from 4 different states: Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat and Delhi. This speaks volumes about his emergence as a truly national leader who had immense popularity. H.K. Dua on the context of the Kashmir dialogue.
Third or fourth question of the press conference was this one. Will the talks we have offered, will they be within the framework of Constitution or outside? क्या Constitution के दायरे में होंगी या बाहर? It was stunning answer which is still remembered in the valley, and everybody likes it. Loves him for that remark. ये इंसानियत के दायरे में होंगी. That was Vajpayee. Wit, and he capsuled in one small little sentence which is still remembered. Out of his just thought, mind came. His wit came, wisdom came, and gave the answer which was satisfactory. Who can object to इंसानियत के दायरे में? Maybe his visit to that area where people had been killed, he was thinking of insaniyat.
Vajpayeeji's statesmanship was articulated in his successful handling of national and international problems. It could be his sincere attempts to improve bilateral relations with Pakistan or the underground nuclear tests within a few weeks of his second term as Prime Minister.
I think good neighbor policy began with him.
Dr. Christopher Raj.
He saw Pakistan as a major, difficult country, but he opened talk with Nawaz Sharif. He opened a talk and also took steps for confidence building measures, which was very essential because this came right after Taliban had been set up in Afghanistan, and the Indo-Pak relations were worried whether India would somewhat destabilize Pakistan. So that was the concern. But Vajpayee statesmanship, he opened the confidence first. The Delhi-Lahore bus service first time it began, people traveled. Second was a major visit to Lahore summit. He took the step to go to Lahore because one thing is there, big country always need to accommodate others, and that was the major step he took. Went to Lahore as a neighbor. He took the first step in any kind of difficulties we faced during the earlier prime ministership of Mrs. Bhutto. Past, he changed it.
L.K. Advani sums up Vajpayee as a politician and statesman par excellence.
In a few words, I would say Atalji's tenure, flawless, absolutely without blemish.
As a poet, Atal Bihari Vajpayee is very animated and passionate reciting his poems.
टूटे हुए सपने की सुने कौन सिसकी, टूटे हुए सपने की सुने कौन सिसकी, अंतर को चीर व्यथा पलकों पर ठिठकी, हार नहीं मानूंगा रार नहीं ठानूंगा, काल के कपाल पर लिखता मिटाता हूँ, गीत नया गाता हूँ,
गीत नया गाता हूँ, गीत नया गाता हूँ।
जीवन बीत चला, जीवन बीत बीत चला जीवन बीत चला जीवन बीत चला.
Noted writer and journalist Ram Sharan Joshi.
His poetry touches all aspects of humanity. So in his poetry, you will find there is a patriotism, nationalism, but at the same time, it is the streams of humanism that dominates.
Shri Pavan K. Verma, former diplomat, former member of parliament and author, translated Vajpayee's poems.
Well, firstly, I think, especially with regards to his personal poetry, that I think was rather well written. And why I translated it is because he asked me. He was the Prime Minister. He had read my translation of Kaifi Azmi and he asked me to translate his poems. And that's how the project began. I was posted in Delhi at that time as a joint secretary here in headquarters. And Mr. Vajpayee called me. I said, I have 3 conditions. He said to me in his inimitable style, Kahiye. And I said, first I will choose the poems myself. Secondly, I will translate not your political poetry, but your personal poetry. And thirdly, don't say yes or no right now. See some of my translations, and then we can go ahead. And I can never forget how his eyes twinkled, and he smiled and said, Manzoor hai, I agree. So that's how it began. And he was exceptionally sensitive, and as his poems bear out indeed. There's a poem which touches me, and it's called in Hindi, Jeevan ki dhalne lagi sanj. And the English translation is called The Evening of Life Begins to Fall. It's a short poem. Jeevan ki dhalne lagi sanj, umar ghat gayi, dagar kat gayi. जीवन की ढलने लगी सांझ, बदले हैं अर्थ, शब्द हुए व्यर्थ, शांति बिना खुशियां हैं बांझ, सपनों में मीत, बिखरा संगीत, ठिठक रहे पांव और झिझक रही झांझ, जीवन ढलने लगी सांझ. And my translation is, the evening of life begins to fall. My years are spent, my journeys are done, the evening of life begins to fall. Meanings have changed, words are in vain, without inner peace, only barren joys remain. Phantom friendships, scattered music, faltering feet, hesitant anklets. The evening of life has begun to fall.
Perhaps it is the sensitivity and innate humanism of Atal Bihari Vajpayee that make him acceptable to one and all. Here are the reactions of some people who have known Vajpayee ji. M.J. Akbar.
Mr. Vajpayee was a great Prime Minister and a very, very warm human being. The way he put anyone at his ease, the suluk, I'm using an Urdu word because I can't quite find an English equivalent. The way he actually behaved with people showed a tremendous humanity, a tremendous insaniyat.
Shakti Sinha.
He was determined to change equations with Pakistan. In fact, the very first day he was sworn in as Prime Minister in March 1998, there was a hockey match between India and Pakistan at the National Stadium. And Mr. Vajpayee attended the match. He had been requested a few days before, and we realized it will clash with the swearing in, but he wanted to attend it, and he attended it. Subsequently, he had meetings with Nawaz Sharif in Colombo for the SAARC summit, and in New York at the time of the United Nations General Assembly.
Sometime in 1968, I had a two-wheeler. My job was to cover Vajpayee's press conference, who was the president of his party. It was at that time Jana Sangh. He was standing outside with his briefcase in hand, waiting in the hot summer. It was a very hot day. Apparently his car was not there, so he was waiting for a taxi. It's 3:45. I was, what should I offer him a lift on my scooter, or supposing he says no? After 3-4 yards, I stopped the scooter, looked back. I said, Vajpayee, I have to go to the same place where you are to go. If you have no objection, you can come with me. He ran to the scooter, jumped onto the pillion, we drove off. From One Feroza Road to Raisina Road, as you know, it's not a long distance. With 3-4 minutes, we reached there, where Janasangh functionaries were there to receive him. One was Jagdish Mathur, who used to deal with the press. Seeing Vajpayee, president of the party, coming on scooter, they had a hearty laugh. Jagdish Mathur, when Vajpayee was getting down the scooter, asked, Vajpayee ji, tomorrow's headline in the Express will be, Vajpayee rides HK Dua scooter. He said, no, that won't be the headline. Headline will be, HK Dua takes Vajpayee for a ride. That was a wit.
L.K. Advani remembers Vajpayee ji's culinary skills.
He's a good cook. And so on several occasions, he prepared khichdi for me. Acha khichdi dikhao meri, kha ke dekho. And he prepares it very well. So it's nice to be tasting the khichdi that he prepares.
Ram Sharan Joshi, veteran journalist, is of the opinion.
He is an Ajaatshatru. He was, when your politics talks about the Indianhood or Indianness as a whole, for him, whether it is a Hindu or the Muslim or the Christian or Sikh, all were equal. And he treated the Indian people as a citizen.
Gentle giant, that's a wonderful way to remember the great man of vision and charisma who earned the affection of people through his humility and insaniyat or humanity. As a person sheds worn-out garments and wears new ones, likewise, at the time of death, the soul casts off its worn-out body and enters a new one. This verse from the Bhagavad Gita became a reality on the 16th of August 2018 in Vajpayee ji's life. His battle with death, as penned in his poem Maut Se Than Gayi, came to an end at the age of 93.
जूझने का मेरा कोई इरादा न था, मोड़ पर मिलेंगे इसका वादा न था, रास्ता रोक कर खड़ी हो गई, ये लगा जिंदगी से बड़ी हो गई। जूझने का मेरा कोई इरादा न था, मोड़ पर मिलेंगे इसका वादा न था, रास्ता रोक कर वह खड़ी हो गई, यूं लगा जिंदगी से बड़ी हो गई। मौत की उम्र क्या 2 पल भी नहीं, जिंदगी सिलसिला आज कल की नहीं। मैं जी भर जिया मैं मन से मरूं, लौट कर आऊंगा कूच से क्यों डरूं, तू दबे पांव चोरी छिपे से ना, सामने वार कर फिर मुझे आजमा, मौत से बेखबर जिंदगी का सफर, शाम हर सुरमई रात बंसी का स्वर, बात ऐसी नहीं कि कोई गम ही नहीं, मौत जिंदगी से बड़ी कैसे हो सकती।